Hello, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Sawako Amma. I'm sharing the egg noodle recipe today. So the noodles for ramen is egg noodles, and then ingredients are simple except one ingredient that you might not be able to get easily in outside of Japan, which is kansui. It's the water type of water. It's an alkaline water. So we're going to be substituting that kansui with water and baking soda. So the first ingredient is the flour. In Japan, usually we have three kinds of flour: the baking cake flour, and then bread flour, and it's kind of in between. And we're using the one in between. We call it churikiko, which we use it for udon and other noodles too. So that's kind of in between all-purpose flour and or the cake flour and the bread flour. So when I'm in Japan, I usually use churikiko, but when I'm in America, I would use two different ones. So the bread flour and all-purpose flour together. Salt and baking soda and water that will make alkaline water like kansui. So kansui makes the noodle, gives a color texture, that noodle, egg noodle texture, like a rubbery texture, and a little flavor too. So baking soda would do that. And eggs, and choose a nice organic fresh eggs. And dusting flour, we call it uchiko in Japanese. This you will need it when you're really cutting and then shaping the noodles. First, let's get the liquid ingredients ready. So eggs, the room temperature eggs are easier to crack cleanly. And you don't want to crack at the edge of anything, something. You want to use the flat, hard surface. And I usually drop it and then, So I made a boo-boo. Let's try the other one. So I already cracked the one. And the second one, use this flat surface. And add salt, baking soda, and stir it. So that's its Japanese way with a chopstick, but you can use a fork or whisk. And add water. The recipe says add water to make 1 cup with the egg. So this is about 1 cup. So working with flour, making any kind of noodles, the critical part of making them is the amount of water. Especially for this recipe, I didn't really measure and weigh the flour. I did a cup, 1 cup and 2 cups. So it depends on where you live. The flour might have so many moisture in it already. Some flour in California sometimes it's very dry. So I will show you how much you want to put water. Usually you will probably need about 1 cup to make it just right moisture. And the flour, you can shift with the sheave first, but I like massaging with my hands. In the beginning, you will feel the lumps. So what you're doing is circulating the flour, circular motion with the palm, and you're making it smooth. And I like this because it feels good, and also by doing this, you will be activating the enzyme, so I believe this noodle will be much easier to digest for your body. So now it's pretty smooth. I don't feel much lumps in my hands. And this is a great time to do a meditation, so I really like this. Now I'm going to introduce the egg water mixture in here. When you introduce the water, I want you to do this circular motion, so the bottom of the fingers are touching the bottom of the bowl, and that's it's a trick to distribute the water very evenly, and then that's pretty critical when you're working with the flour making noodle, distributing the liquid all to the flour evenly. So I'm going to add half of the egg water first, and then quickly do the circular motion. Most of people at this point, they want to make a ball, so try not to make a ball. Try to resist making ball, because you want to just, at this point, distributing the water into flour evenly. That's your goal. So you'll see a little lumps everywhere, and as you go, you want to clean your fingers. So before you start this process, clean your hands really good. And I'm going to add another half of what you have left. And same thing. And it's good to have somebody holding the bowl, or put a wet towel underneath so it doesn't move. It works. And you'll be surprised, the final product of this, at this stage, when you have a dough, it's very dry dough. And then keep cleaning the bowl as you go, and your fingers. So I have a big lumps and small lumps, and then I'm going to add just a little bit more. So from here, you're going to be adding like a tablespoon to teaspoon at a time. So you want to feel how much you need to add water. You don't want to add too much water, then when you make the final noodle, they will stick easily, and then you will lose the texture. If it's too dry, it will get too rubbery, and it might break when you're cooking the noodle. So you need just the right amount of water. And the recipe doesn't tell you exactly how much you need, because your hands, everybody's different hands, moisture, temperature, and that changes everything. And your climate, weather changes everything, how your flour is stored, what kind of types of flours you're using, everything changes. Now I have a big lump and a little dry spot. This is about a good amount of water, or maybe a little more. So about 1 tablespoon left in the container, and I use the rest. And if you keep doing the circular motion, the flour will just becomes like a ball by itself. So let them make a ball. You don't have to work hard. Now I think it's time to make a bowl. You will see still a little dryness, but not a flour. Dry. And a big lump. So this is about a good amount, and you're going to be starting to put it all together. Clean the bowl and just push it, and then they want to become a big ball. And you see the dry flour still there. They don't want to, if they don't want to cooperate, you're going to add just a tiny bit to help them and merge to a ball, big ball. And clean the ball. Now the bowl is pretty clean, there's no dry on the bottom. I'll take it out. And you're gonna be, so right now it's pretty dry, you will see a little dry spot. So it's much harder, stiffer than the bread dough or the cookie dough. And then kneading. You're gonna start to see a dry flour coming off. You want to keep cleaning it, and then make sure your hands are totally clean. So right before you start to knead, you might want to clean your hands if they're not clean enough, because the dryness on the fingers goes into the dough later. That wouldn't be a good texture noodle. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the bottom of the palm, and you're pushing down the dough straight down and away from you. And then here's the center of the dough. Take the edge with the palm, bottom of the palm, bring it into the center, push down and push away. And then rotate about 1 hour. And bring it in, down, out. In, down, out. In, down, out. And then you will notice that dough is pretty dry. And then keep cleaning your surface. And kneading in the rhythm is great. The dough likes the rhythm. And then keep feeling the dough, because first it's rough, and then it will start to smooth out. And then once you feel the dough starting to smooth out, I already start to feel the smooth surface, and you're going to lighten up the weight. And if you know what hara means, dantian, the center of your body, right below the belly, your weight is coming from the hara, so you don't have to use just the muscle of the hands or arms. So in order to knead the dough, it's easy to ground your feet and then stuck your wrist, elbow and shoulder straight, and you don't want to bend. So you're just having the weight from here all the way to the dough, and then you can just rock your body, then you can knead much easier. And then you choose this table a little bit, maybe the waist height. This is a little bit low for me. So it's been about 4 to 5 minutes kneading. That's about 120 to 30 kneading that I do. You see the smoothness now? It was very dry. And this is what you go, smooth, and then this texture. And then make sure your center is here, and then keep kneading into the center like so, and then you will see this kind of a petal, and we call this kiku neri. Kiku is the chrysanthemum, and you're making a chrysanthemum petal. Neri is the kneading. So this is one of the noodle making technique. So you will have the bottom surface smooth and belly in the middle, and then you're getting the air out from the dough like that. And then as you knead, the dough is becoming like a little soft, and then you're going to go lighter and then lighter on the weight. You don't want to over knead, so you go lighter and then lighter once you start to feel the smoothness. And then about 150 kneading, you will probably have the smooth, and then you will keep this under a wet towel and then cover it and then leave it for at least 30 minutes. And you just activated the gluten, so it's kind of rubbery, so it doesn't roll out well. So you will let it sit. And the texture changes within this 30 minutes. So just remember how it's nice and stiff right now. It will get a little softer and more moisture. And I would keep this in the refrigerator overnight or at least 24 hours to almost like aging. That will give a very nice texture and then much more easily to digest too. So 30 minutes at least in the room temperature or overnight to 24 hours in the refrigerator. If you're keeping it in the refrigerator, keep it in a Ziploc or airtight container and all air out and leave it in the refrigerator. So the noodle dough is ready. I took it out from the refrigerator. It's better to leave it in the room temperature for an hour or so. It's not too cold, so the dough is not too stiff. Now, the dough is a little bit softer than it was. And then this is half of the recipe actually. Divided it into quarter of what you have, or half. So you should have 4 bowls, and make sure your belly is closed. And then you're going to be making a little. So this is the method that when you're using a pasta machine, you can use the roller, the rolling pin, but this is easier. One less things to wash. So once you have this shape, you're going to be pushing down so it goes through the pasta machine easier. It doesn't have to be too thin, but if it's too thick, you have to work harder when you're rolling through the machine. So about this much, a little thinner here, and about like that. So here now you're going to go through the rolling one, not the cutting one. If you have a machine, in the future video I can probably show you how to do it by hands if you don't have a machine, but investing into the machine, if you are a noodle lovers, it's a good idea. So there is a number here, and then my machine, the fattest one, if you go through this, the fattest here is number 7. Sometimes the machine, the number 0 is the fattest one. So you're going to start with that number, the fattest setting. Mine is number 7. And then start from the thin side and then roll. You probably don't need any dusting flour. If it's sticky, you probably had too much water. And then make sure your machine is pinned down. I didn't have a good table to pin down, so I probably need one more person to help me. And my dad was helping me earlier. So here, so this is number 7, and I'm gonna go to skip the number 6 and then go to thinner number 5. And for ramen, it's the thickness of the noodle is your preference. Just like I said earlier, if you want Hakata style, you can go out to number 3 or 2 if you're starting from number 7. If you're starting from number 0, you might want to go about to number 5. But here I'm starting from number 7. I'm going to go to a number 3. It's kind of not fat, not thin, kind of in the middle. I skipped the number 4. I just went from number 5 to number 3. And then make sure this goes in straight, and then make sure it's not fat dough there, and it shouldn't stick if you have a very good noodle dough here. So this is the thinness I have right now. Now you can cut. I'm gonna dust a little bit. So you probably have two different kinds of cutting setting, fettuccine and the spaghetti. You're gonna use the spaghetti one, so you're gonna just slide it in here. Put the handle here, and I'm gonna dust. And then make sure it goes straight down, and this is the most satisfactory moment of noodle making. Beautiful noodle. Yeah. So I teach ramen class and noodle classes in Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op often, and this is the moment that everybody loves. Yay! Once it's cut, dusting flour uchiko, sprinkle generously, and then toss so they don't stick together. If you had too much water in the noodle, it will stick pretty quickly within 10 minutes or so. But if you had the right amount of water, it should be separated like this for a long time. And in the south region, Kagoshima, where I am right now, or Kyushu ramen, Hakata ramen from Fukuoka, that's one of the most famous noodle in Japan, ramen noodle. There are different noodles. The Hakata ramen usually is thin, about this much, maybe a little thinner, and then Chijiremen, which means a curled noodle. In Kagoshima here, it's straight and then a little bit thick. So I'm in probably thick side because it will expand when you cook. So if you like the straight one, just leave it like this. If you want the curled one, this is how you curl it. You squish it and toss, squish, toss, squish, toss, squish, toss. And if you're squishing and then while you're squishing it, it sticks. If the noodle, your noodle sticks, you probably have too much water when you're making the noodle. So next time, reduce the water amount. So if you do this a couple times, you have a little curled noodle. Here's the tips for storing the noodles. If you cook it right after you make it, no problem. If you want to store, or if you have extra noodles and you want to keep it, I would, this is how I freeze the noodles. So once you have the noodles, I would put it one by one servings separately on a plate, and then put it in the freezer at least 30 minutes to 1 hour, and then that will get a little hard. And then take them out and then put them in a Ziploc, airtight or airtight container. And then it will last about a few weeks to 1 month. More than that, it will get a freeze burn. You might get a freeze burn, so use it within a month.